This is one of my favorite kind of scenes to paint. Just, at the beach, watching the waves roll in on a sunny day. When you're out and about painting in a landscape like this, you kind of got to move quick. Things are changing, the light's changing. You might not have that much time. There's sand blowing around. There's kind of a lot going on. So this is sort of a quick and abbreviated way to get a scene like this down and to capture the moment without really fussing over it too much. I've already done a wash of light blue for the sky. I'm working on the wave patterns now. There's just a little bit of sort of a warm orangey color on the cliffs. And it's really about letting one thing dry while you work on another thing with watercolor. So I'm just looking at lightly capturing these wave patterns with a mix of really rich blues with a lot of ultramarine, but also sort of a grayed down kind of color to get the shadow patterns in the waves. Now this is obviously a really sped up version. I do this in real time. I send out these lessons by email, so you get one every Friday in your inbox. So if you want to see the slowed down version with a lot more explanations, I'll put a link below to where you can subscribe. But hopefully this gives you some ideas about how to approach a scene like this regardless. Now, I'm not paying too much attention to the exact wave patterns. I'm just trying to, because the waves are moving, right? But the cliffs are standing still. So I've come in already with this sort of warm orangey yellow color for the rocks. Now I'm dropping in some darker colors for the shadows. And the trees, because of the way they're kind of backlit and silhouetted against the sky, they're really quite dark. So I'm mixing up a very, very dark green with some ultramarine and some yellow, but also working in some orange just to sort of help gray it down. And I'm just making these little shapes with my brush. I'm not trying to get overly fussy about this. Anybody looking at this at a glance is going to understand that these are trees, right? So I'm just kind of getting down a first pass of just my impressions of these trees up on the rocks. And then once other areas of the painting have dried, I move back to those. So I'm constantly switching back and forth just to try to kind of manage that. I want to work in some darker, more dramatic shadows on the cliff, really capture the sense of the light, and the drama really comes from this interplay of light and dark. So that's, my main goal with those shadows in the cliffs is to really get that sense. I'm coming in with a smaller brush now to add some just sort of smaller details of waves and shadows. The trick with painting water is you definitely don't want to overwork it. It's always best to stop before you think you're really finished and take a step back and see how you like it. But this white paint pen is a nice little trick for watercolor painters to get the kind of sense of the sparkles and the texture of the waves in a way that you can't necessarily with watercolor, you might struggle with. White gouache is another great tool for watercolorists. Just having one small tube of white gouache with you can let you get that kind of rough, thick, opaque feeling that I think fits with the look of waves breaking. Now in this case, I made a lot more waves than what I saw in the picture, in part because I wanted to demonstrate them, but also just the waves are in constant motion, right? So they're not going to sit still for you. You got to just kind of drop them in where you think they work for your composition. So I added a lot more just because I really got into the idea of this choppy sea. So now that that's done, I'm really just putting in a few finishing touches. I'm looking at areas where I think something needs to be darker or lighter. And that sense of contrast is very often sort of the last thing that I'll look at. So if you want to learn more about just painting from life and working in a sketchbook, then check the links below. You can see where to subscribe to my weekly lessons, but also you can just like and subscribe to this channel, and you'll see more of these as they come up. So this is probably, too much maybe, but it's always hard to stop noodling with these. But anyway, here's the finished version, and thanks so much for watching.